This is Patrick from the PIMS Pro. Today I'm going to talk about reconciling purchase orders with vendor invoices. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open up the purchase order. And in the PO, you can see that this PO is partially received. I can see that because we still have a receive button down here in the lower right, and we have a view receiving button that would not be there had there been no receiving at all. But that said, we often have vendor invoices for partially received POs. So I'm going to go to the Vendor Reconciliation tab of the purchase order. And I'm going to go ahead and look at my vendor invoice here. And I'm going to put in the date of the vendor invoice. I'm going to just pretend that my vendor invoice was dated 11/16/2020. And that the invoice number, I'm just going to make one up here, it's 60-756. Okay, and you can see that the due date has auto-filled because I have net 30 terms set in the vendor card for Ingram Micro. Now I'm going to say that maybe I have an invoice for one of these MacBook Pros, and the invoice is for 1198.04 because Ingram likes to charge $2 in handling on usually the first invoice from an order. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the invoice amount is 1198.04 and I was charged $2 in handling. I personally classify that as freight. If you didn't want to do that as freight, you could use other over here and specify a different GL account. So now you can see that this is showing as unbalanced because PIMS is expecting the invoice amount to be $35.90.12, but I'm showing $1198.04. So all I need to do is say there's only one of that MacBook Pro on this invoice. And now you can see that it's balanced. I can go ahead and post this invoice to my accounts payable, and it would show up in my Ingram Micro payables. Alternatively, I could click on Finance Company here, and I could put in, say, my American Express card. And that would send that payable over to my Amex bill. Or if you could also do this with a flooring company. In this case, I want this to go right to my Ingram Micro payables. I'm going to go ahead and post it. And I'm going to post it for the date of the invoice. And there's nothing special about this reconciliation, so I'm going to say no to adding a note. And I'm going to go over to Accounting, or Command 1. And from here, I can go ahead and say Make a Vendor Payment. And I'll say Ingram Micro. And these are all of my Ingram Micro invoices that are open in my system. You can see at the bottom this 12/16/20 is the due date. If I wanted to just pay that 1198.04, I could do that. Or I could check off the invoices that I want to pay at Ingram Micro, or I could hit Pay All because I have $15 million in my checking account here. We might as well give them the $115,000 and hit Paid through Bill Pay. And this would come out of my primary checking here, or I could pick other bank accounts before I hit post. But now I'm going to go ahead and pay Ingram Micro. Now Ingram Micro is no longer owed. Thanks for watching, and enjoy PIMS.